Hello, this is my Think Aloud assignment for ERDG 310. The book we will be doing is Rhode Aloud's Kitten, written by Wilfred Burton. The outcomes I will be covering will be in grade 3. First one is CR 3.3, listening to and understanding information, identifying main ideas and supporting details, compare different ideas and point views, and explain connections made between texts heard, with indicators B, C, F, and G. The other outcome I will be using is AR 3.1, reflecting on and assessing their viewing, listening, reading, speaking, writing, and other representing experiences and the selected strategies they have used. Example, using class-generated criteria. The indicators in that will be A, C, D, E. The other two subject areas I have connected to are art, and that's CR 3.2, respond to art expression that use the environment, natural constructed images as inspiration, with indicators A, C, and E. The other outcome is in health, UCS 3.4, understand what it means to contribute to the health of self, family, and home, with indicators A, B, E, and F. So now we are going to start with the book. So to start, I'm going to do some before reading comprehension strategies. So I'll start with, hello class. Today we will be listening to a book called Rhode Aloud's Kitten by Wilfred Burton. For the book, our goal is to listen to the book and be able to gather the main ideas of the book with evidence that represents throughout the book. With the reading, students, you are also responsible for making sure you understand what is going on in the book. You can do this by asking yourself or myself questions. Before we start reading, we're going to just go over a few before reading thoughts. The first thing we are going to look at is setting a purpose for reading this book. For myself, the purpose for reading this book is I want to know what the kitten's role is in the story. I want to know what the kitten's going to do in the story and what makes it important. I want to know how a kitten and a road are also connected. I also want to know about the other characters in the book. I want to know who is responsible for the kitten and why the kitten is important for the story. Another before reading thought I had is, why am I reading this book? I'm choosing to read this book because I'm interested in learning about the kitten's adventure and what is going on and goes throughout the book. I'm also reading this because I just want to learn more about the kitten in general. Does the kitten grow? Is it spoiled? Does it have friends and family? I think with reading this book, I will know about the importance of the kitten, what goes on in its life, and why the book is called Rhode Aloud's Kitten. Another thing I think about before reading is, what do I already know about the topic of the book? I know before reading that kittens are usually pets. They are very playful, full of energy, funny, sleepy, and crazy. The things I don't already know, what is going on in the book besides that the book involves a kitten and a road. I don't know the details of the story. I don't know what the kitten does or why a road plays an important part in the story. Just seeing the cover of the book does remind me of a few different things. It reminds me of my cat, Buddy, because of the color of the kitten on the cover, because they had similar patterns. It also reminds me of him because he loved to play and cuddle. Lastly, before reading, we're going to preview the book by looking through the text and looking at the cover. With looking at the cover, it tells me that the kitten is very important to the story. And this cover also shows me that the kitten has 2 eyes, is multicolored, and likes to be wrapped up in blankets. The title of the story gets me thinking that some people find a kitten on the road and they have to figure out a way to keep the kitten. And the different pictures, after looking through, makes me think about two girls that have a kitten and they can't keep him anymore. The pictures make me think that the book is going to be about the kitten finding his way back to them, and as he grows into a full pet. So now class, we went through all the thoughts about what's going to happen before reading. We're going to read the story. I want everyone to listen well and listen for the main ideas of the story. Code Allowance Kitten by Wilfred Burton. Rosie loved the flat, treeless prairie with the big blue sky. She loved the small, cozy house on the road allowance her papa built from scraps of discarded lumber. Best of all, she loved her cousin, Madeline, who lived just a few steps away. Madeline was her best friend. They were the same age and everyone thought they were sisters. Where there was one, you could always find the other. In the spring, they ran along the ditches and cracked the ice that formed overnight. They heard the ruckus of the returning geese and the chittering of the cheeky grasshoppers. As soon as the snow melted, they played can hour after hour with their brothers. They smelled the freshness of spring. Rosie and Madeline searched for new kittens in the shed. They found one all by herself in a dusty Christmas orange box under a pile of rubble. Her eyes were open, one green, one gold. She was the most beautiful kitten they had ever seen. They both fell in love with her immediately. Rosie and Madeline took the calico fur back to Rosie's house and wrapped her in Rosie's quilt, which Rose Snookum had made for her when she was a newborn baby. They shared kitten one day at Madeline's house and one day at Rosie's house, back and forth. Kitten was at home at either house because she always had the quilt to sleep on. Now, class, we are going to make our first stop in the reading, and we're just going to look back at this photo of the kitten close up. I just want everyone to think about the first couple things we have learned about the book, if there's anything we can connect to already. For myself, I was able to connect to the book after the quote. Rosie and Madeline searched for new kittens in the shed. They found one all by herself hidden in a dusty Christmas orange box under a pile of rubble. With this quote, it made me think of the times that my sister and I would go to our grandparents' farm, and we would search for kittens in the barn. We usually always found some and bring them back to the house to show Grandma. But she always wanted us to take them back because the house already had enough cats and the mom wanted her babies back. This part of the story is just like whenever someone gets a new kitten, they fall in love with how cute it is and always wants to play. The quote also reminds me about this article that I read about a dog that was found all by himself and the family took him home to be there. We're going to continue reading. That summer they chased fluttering butterflies and nectar-seeking bumblebees. They're hoping for their wild sunflower in the hot summer breeze. They put them in old mason jars and released them into the prairie sky. They picked Saskatoon berries along the fence line. They played catch the grasshopper with kitten in the tall grass. That fall, they walked along poplar bluffs and crunched through the golden leaves that fluttered down the rest. They picked ripe rose hips and ate their delicious skin. They leapt over the windrows of freshly swatted wheat and helped kitten find mice in the straw. In the winter, they could see the town lights shimmering in the distance. They watched blizzard through the frost-paned windows and jiggled at the house parties. They dressed up Kitten in old clothes and carried her around in Rosie's baby quilt. This was their home, the only home they knew, the home they loved. One day, some strange men in suits from town came to their road allowance. Who are they, Mama? Rosie asked. Just some men from town, Mama told Rosie, but Rosie knew something was wrong. Mama had tears in her eyes and she bustled around gathering up their belongings. She pulled out the old trunk and started packing. What happened, Mama? Questioned Rosie. We all have to move. They're sending us up to Michief to Green Lake, Mama replied. We have to get off this road allowance by Saturday. Rosie couldn't believe what she heard. Moving to Green Lake, Rosie choked back tears. Where's that? Mama gathered Rosie in her arms and cuddled her tightly, she whispered. It's up north in the bush, my girl. They told us we would be better off up there. That was Monday. We'll make a new home, assured Papa. They promised us our own land. There are lots of trees to build a log house. There'll be good fishing in the lakes and good hunting in the bush. Maybe even a school for you. But Papa didn't sound convinced. On Tuesday, Mama helped Madeline's mom pack up their belongings. Kitten had missed all the commotion at Rosie's house because she was with Madeline that day. She didn't have to worry, all snuggled up in Rosie's quilt. It was her most favorite place in the whole wide world. So now, class, with reading more of the book, we have learned a few more things going on. We have learned that Rosie and Madeline are cousins. They have found a calico cat, and they share. They have to move up or off the road allowance and move up north. With these details, we also find about some facts family will get when they move up north. With this quote, we'll make a new home. They promised our own land. There are lots of trees to build a log house. There'll be good fishing in the lakes and good hunting in the bush. Maybe even a school for you. With that quote, we learned about multiple aspects of their new home up north. With knowing these things, we are going to do some visualizing of their new home, class. With hearing about the different things, I can picture an aerial view of their new home. An aerial view is like a picture taken from a plane. I can picture that there's lots of big pine trees everywhere, and in the middle there's a clearing of trees where there's a small log cabin in the middle with a fence around it. I also see, with my views, lots of little lakes with big walleye jumping out and an old man fishing. I can see deer running through Rosie's yard, her watching them eat and just explore. I picture Papa working on the new house and Mama hanging up laundry. And off in the distance a little bit, I can see a school with kids playing outside and the teacher calling them back to class. Here's the different aspects of the home up north and their trunk of their belongings. Now we'll continue reading. On Wednesday, Rosie and Madeline continued to help Mama pack. Mama kept telling them, we can only take some things, we can't take everything. Later, Rosie and Madeline helped Mama hang the washing out on the fence to dry. That's when Mama broke the news. Kitten will have to stay. Rosie couldn't believe what she heard. The lump in the pit of her stomach erupted into a gush of tears. She and Madeline pleaded, please let us take Kitten with us. She'll starve to death here. A coyote will eat her. Let us take her, please. All Mama did was turn around and go into the house. With sad hearts, they took Kitten and hid under the quilt. We'll find some way of taking you with us, Kitten, sobbed Rosie. We won't leave you behind, echoed Madeline as Kitten licked the tears off her face. On Thursday, Rosie helped Mama make bannock and pack the grub box. That's when Rosie thought of an idea of how to save their precious pet. She and Kitten raced over to Madeline's. Madeline, Madeline, Rosie shouted. I have an idea, Rosie whispered something into Madeline's ear while Kitten rubbed against her leg and purred. On Friday, after picking rocks for local farmers, all the road allowance men got together in front of Rosie's house. The men sounded like Canada geese on their way north in spring as the ruckus got louder and louder. We are going to live if we don't do as they say, shouted Madeline's father. We better go or they'll arrest us, agreed Rose's papa. All this commotion scared Rosie and Madeline. It scared Kitten too. Kitten bolted back to the house to hide under her safety blanket. Rosie grabbed Madeline's hand and followed Kitten. They scrambled under the quilt and petted her silky coat. Kitten laid on her back for a tummy rub, and they sang her song Nookum taught them. Alote, Gento, Alote, until they all fell asleep. On Saturday, the men in suits from town returned. Papa and Rosie were loading the last of their possessions onto the wagon. As soon as Kitten saw the strange men, she arched her back, raised her fur, and made a grand attempt to scare them off by hissing. The strange men didn't seem to notice. You'll like it in Green Lake, little girl, said one of the strange men. Don't worry about your cat. She'll be fine here. She'll catch mice and fend for herself. I don't want to leave, Kitten, sobbed Rosie, and she grabbed onto her papa's leg. I don't want to go. Papa gathered Rosie in his arms and lifted her onto the back of the wagon. Now, class, reading the last little bit, we have learned that with the move, the girls won't be able to take Kitten, and they have to leave lots of their other possessions behind. So, class, with this last page, I just read in the picture of Kitten hissing. You can tell that Kitten doesn't really like the men. I know this because cats usually hiss when they're trying to be scary. I can also see that Kitten doesn't like these men because of the way she is showing her teeth and that her claws are out to scratch. The text also provided me with information that Kitten is hissing at the men and that Kitten is trying to scare them away. With these pictures, we can also see that the story has happened over a bit of time because of the amount Kitten has grown. When we first see Kitten, she is small. Now she is almost a full-size cat. If you look, she's pretty big now, and her claws and teeth are showing. Don't worry, my girl. We'll all work out in the end. We need to get to town and load our belongings onto the train, urged Papa. We need to get there before dark. You can see Mama has set up camp when we get there. So say goodbye to our house. Say goodbye to Kitten. Papa, I left my quilt in the house, shouted Rosie as she scrambled from the wagon. I'll be right back. Kitten raced Rosie back into the house. She plucked Kitten up and wrapped her in the quilt and returned. This time, Mama hoisted Rosie and the bundled up into the wagon. Away they went to town. So with just this little bit of reading we just did, we find out a plan that the girls had to keep Kitten. We learn that they won't be leaving her behind. With this quilt class, she plucked up Kitten and wrapped her in the quilt and returned. This time, Mama hosted Rosie and the bundle up into the wagon. Away to town they went. In the picture, you can guess that the girls are going to sneak Kitten onto the train without anyone noticing them. I'm guessing this plan will work for the girls as long as they don't get in anyone's way. They don't draw attention to themselves. I do like the girls' decision to try to sneak Kitten onto the train and to their new home, because I don't think when a person moves, they should get rid of their pet and leave them behind. So now we are going to continue reading. The sun beat down on them as the horses drudged along the rutted dirt road. She held onto the quilt with all her might. It wasn't a long ride to the train station. When they got there, Papa and the other road allowance men started loading their belongings into the boxcar. The women and children made camp along the tracks for the night. Once the tent was set, Rosie and Madeline stayed out of the way for the rest of the evening. They made sure no one saw their fidgeting. Early the next morning, after taking down camp, the road allowance families loaded the remainder of their belongings. Madeline and Rosie were nowhere to be found. "All aboard!" shouted the conductor. Rosie and Madeline, "Mama," hollered, "we're going to leave. Get on the train now!" From behind the train station, Rosie and Madeline emerged from the bundled quilt. Quickly as jackrabbits, they scrambled up the steps. It was already crowded with family and friends settling into their seats. Rosie and Madeline beelined to the back of the passenger car and sat with the bundled quilt between them. They didn't move a muscle. The whistle blew and the train began to hiss and chug slowly. Then it chugged faster and faster, rocking back and forth. Rosie's heart raced as the train picked up speed, then the quilt started to wiggle. Rosie clinched their precious cargo and hugged it tightly. All of a sudden, Papa bellowed, "Look at our homes!" Everyone rushed to the windows and gasped. Billowing clouds of smoke rose where their homes once stood. Blackness spilled into their still prairie sky. So now, class, that we've seen the girls sneak around and keep Kitten hidden through the night and got him on the train, the girls see through the window that their home on the road allowance is being burned down by the men who got them to leave. With this new information, I was able to learn that Kitten wouldn't have been able to survive there, like the men said, and that they were lying to the girls. I also learned that men didn't really care about the people on the road allowance; they only cared about the land. With this information, it makes me think: why did the men have to do this to the girls' home? I'm wondering why they needed the land so badly, and why did they burn their houses down? I also learned you never know what will happen, and get ready for any surprises that may come your way. So now we're going to continue reading the last little bit. Rosie and Madeline started sobbing inside the bundle. Kitten cried too. No one heard Kitten's meowing over the commotion. Returning to their seats, they hugged the bundle and sang quietly. Oloeto, gentile, oeto. Kitten started purring along. And that is the end of the story, class. Now that we have finished the story, we're going to look back at the story and see what the main ideas were. I would say that the first main idea is about the importance of family. I would say this because all throughout the book, Rosie and Madeline family is discussed. They always do things for each other, they all live close or with each other, and they all care about each other deeply. The next main idea is that you should care about others and other things. I think that this main idea is a main idea because all throughout the book, you can see the family really does care about Kitten and love her. In the book, this is especially seen when they sneak Kitten onto the train with them. Another way caring about others is seen is when everyone has to move and they all help each other packing up their belongings. With this story, lots of critical reflection can be done as well, class. The things I liked about this book, that all the characters in the book love each other and took care of one another. I also like the ending of the book with the girls on the train. I like this because the author leaves the ending up to the readers and allows them to use their imagination about the girls' new home. The things that I disliked about the story is why didn't the author explain why Kitten couldn't come to their new home? The girls were just told she can't come, and that was it, with no reasoning. Another thing I disliked about this story was why did the girls' home have to be burned down at the end? Why couldn't the author just have them leave their homes and say goodbye? With the story, I did some reflecting, and the story makes me feel good by the way it works out. I'm happy that the girls were able to keep Kit in the end, and she didn't have to stay at the road allowance. The story also helps me understand how important pets are to a family, and when they pass away, how hard it is on a family because the pets were loved so much. That is the end of my Think Aloud. Thank you.